Hi, welcome back to the channel. Right, the job today is on the Himalayan. What I'm going to be doing is going to replace the headstock bearings. It's a known fault, cheap crappy bearings in them as stock, don't last very long, 8,000 kilometres this. Now what I'm going to do is replace them with a quality bearing. SKF is what I'm fitting in this, is a good quality bearing. That part number is 30205. That's the same bearing top and bottom, and I think once they've been replaced they'll last for not forever, because nothing lasts forever, but I'll certainly be getting more than 8,000 kilometres out of them. Right, let's have a look what we need. These are the tools. I've got a small lightweight hammer here. I've got a 24mm socket, which is for the wheel nut, 16mm spanner, which is for holding the spindle. I think that's 6. Under here, the pinch bolt for hold this, that's a 6mm Allen key. So I've got an Allen key for that. There's a 4mm Allen key to take the ABS sensor off. 12mm socket, which will fit the brake caliper, because we're going to take the brake caliper away. The brake caliper will be just fastened back against here, so it's well out of the way. Now here, I've got spacers under there with longer bolts. These here on mine are 4mm, but we'll be taking this off. And then there's a 10mm socket I've got here, which is already on my ratchet. That is to undo the 4 bolts under here. I think you can just see them. One behind it, one there, one this side. I'm going to drop this off. Then that's a 6mm Allen key. That is for the pinch bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You don't need to take them right out, just slack them off. Then what we'll do, the wheel will be removed, the caliper will be fastened back, this mud guard will be taken off. When you take that off, this bracket will just stop on the cables and it'll just sit back here. This will be taken off. We're going to slacken these off, and we'll be able to, you'll have to jack this up off the floor so you can get the wheel out, and enough clearance so you can pull the fork leg out. The fork leg will slide down. It'll slide out of here, the bottom yoke and the top yoke. We take the forks out, put them somewhere safe so they don't get damaged. Now, what I shall do, let's have a look. Let's put, here's a old blanket. Put that over the tank so we can't cause any damage to any of the tank. I think, because I've got risers on mine, I think I can leave the bars on the top yoke, and I should be able to undo this. This is the spanner you need for this. Is this open-ended spanner, 30mm, like that. We'll just undo that and should be able to screw that right out. And what I'm going to do, I shall put a cloth round here, lift this up clear and just pull it forward onto the clocks, but it'll have a cloth like this on it, so we're not going to damage nothing. And just fasten these back round here so they're out of the way. That means I haven't got to disturb none of my cables, switches and everything else. What we need then, we're going to take the lock nut off the underneath here. There's a nut, and this is a C-spanner. You need a C-spanner to undo that nut. Now you'll undo the nut, then the bottom yoke here will slide out and out of the headstock. And then we're going to knock the old bearings off, fit the new bearings I've got, grease everything and rebuild it. But I'll show you step by step as we go through, but that's a general idea with it. Right, we'll make a bit of a start then. First is undo this nut here off the wheel spindle. 24mm. Now, going to undo the pinch bolt on the bottom of here. Don't need to take it all the way out. Now, that should turn now, it does. Right, that's all loose, ready to take the wheel out. Now before I take the wheel out, what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo this here, which is the ABS sensor, and take this off. The reason I'm taking this off before I take the wheel out is when I pull the wheel out, I don't want it to catch the caliper, and I certainly don't want to bash the back of the ABS sensor. So best to take it out now. That's loose. Just pop that back in there so we know where it is. I put my sensor behind the fork leg and cable tight to the bottom of the caliper. When it was new, it was fitted like that. Actually run underneath here like that. Now if you're off-road you can catch this and rip the ABS sensor out, so I've took it out, put it behind the fork leg like that, then I've just cable tied this to the fork part here where the caliper bolts. Just gives it a clean run. Right. $12mm socket. Let's undo the caliper. Take these bolts out. Slide the caliper back. Right, we're going to take the mud guard off, but if I take this one off now, get this bolt out. You see that? In there. I'm going to take this one out first. Like so. Just so I can get this bracket here. That can come off with it. I just use a bungee cord. Put this back here. Just keeps it out of the way, that keeps it free from here. Right. Alright, back to the wheel. Take the 24mm nut and washer off. Pull the spindle out. Take the drive off the other side, which I believe doesn't do anything anymore. Take the wheel out. Right, next job. This here, just pull that out of the bracket, so we don't need to take the bracket off. Just sit that back there, same out of the way. Next job, we're going to take the other 3 screws out of the top mudguard mount and remove the mudguard. If you haven't done the modification on this, you get a kit from Hitchcock's. It's well worth doing. It raises the mudguard, especially if you're off-road. It gives you more clearance between the tyre and the inside. I actually come off this bike last year off-road because it built up with mud on a really muddy track, and it's either slowed down or stopped the wheel from turning enough to fetch me off. So you buy this, it just gives you a bit more clearance. Right. That should come out. Yeah, it does. There we go. Front mudguard removed. Next job. These 4 bolts here, look. Take them off now. This is out of the way because you've been wanting to knock the bottom bearing off here, which is, you don't want to be putting any pressure on your mudguard. Right, let's get that. Plus, if you go to the bearing stockist yourselves, a place that just sells bearings, I picked my, I know I live in Bulgaria, I've just picked my 2 bearings up for this yesterday, and there was 20 lev a pair, so 10 lev, yeah, 10 lev each, which, let me think, 10 lev, maybe about £6.50 a bearing, and that's quality bearings. Now, I know it's easy to ring Hitchcock's up. I want 2 headstock bearings, please. I've got no idea what the cost would be, but it wouldn't be like 15 quid for a pair of bearings, believe me. No. They're buying them from the same place you can get them, possibly. They won't be Royal Enfield ones. Well, you don't want Royal Enfield ones, not again. Rubbish. There we go. That's that off. Put that there out of the way. Just a tip, when you put all your bolts like this in mud guards, especially anywhere where there's going to be water, I spray them with copper grease. Now I still torque them up, but if they've got the copper grease on, steel, stainless, whatever, and alley don't mix. One eats into the other and it can seize the bolts up. Or if water gets in, if you happen to pressure wash your bike, which isn't the best, but what can you do if you ride off-road? You know, it's got to be cleaned, doesn't it? So copper grease them, then they come out next time. There's nothing worse, like it takes you 2 seconds to copper grease it. You shear a bolt off, you can be hours sometime getting it out. I'm making a right mess on the job at the same time. So just a bit of a tip, really. Right, now these bearings, there's no play whatsoever in this. Let me just, there. Yeah, I get hold of this, there's absolutely no play. So you would think there's nothing wrong with it. Now, Christmas, I dropped all this down, re-greased bearing top and bottom, and you'd have thought there wouldn't be a problem, but the bearings are such poor quality in them. Just get notchy. If you don't check them, the first thing you'll notice is it doesn't handle the same. It feels weird on the corners. It'd be because this, when the weight, what happens is when the weight's on the bike, on the bottom bearing, it wears exaggerated, looks like slots in the bearing, and the bearing will sit in it and won't move. So put some decent bearings in. This job, if you don't feel comfortable on your own doing it, it's always advisable. See if you get your mate round, you know, come and give me a hand. you know, your mate can be holding stuff and helping this, that and the other, you know, it's just surprising. It's really surprising. Yeah, see that there? I can't feel anything. You'd think that feels great, that does, but it isn't, believe me. Right, anyway, let's crack on. Now, always get the best fitting thing you've got, whether it's a socket or Allen key to fit these, because these are Mickey Mouse, soft, they're not the high quality you would expect. So, there we go. Oh, Christ. Tight. Now you might find, well you will find, if it's the first time out from the factory, these have got Loctite on them. Well, obviously the idea is that they're not going to move, but they won't do anyway. I'll talk about tightening these up when we put it back in. Right, that should be enough. Right, I'm going to get my 30mm spanner. Now I've just cracked this off. That fits that, nice. It shouldn't be too tight this anyway. This is just tightening the top yoke down onto the stem. Now I think for me that should just screw off, hopefully clear the bars, but I've got risers. Oh, there you go, look. That's it. That's the nut. Put that there. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to undo the two bolts either side of the top yoke like we did the bottom and lift this off. So I'll get something I'm going to put across my clocks and what have you, so I can put this there and fasten it back. Okay, I've undone these two top bolts here. Now this we've already slackened off, so I'm going to pull the fork leg, it'll come out. Slide out easy. There we go. Now, oh dear, this is a good time for you just to pull these up, pull the boots up, and just inspect here that you've got no oil, bits of leaks or anything like that, because while you got the forks out, if that was the case, replace the fork seals, saves you doing it until a later date. But no, this is spotless, still as new. Right, put these somewhere that they're not going to get damaged. It gives you a good chance to polish all the bits up. It's a little bit awkward to get to when they're in. I'll put this out of the way. But what I'll do, I'll take the other side off this exactly, take it off the same. Then we're going to lift the top yoke off and fasten it back to the clocks. I'll show you that when I get to it. Right, that's that one undone. Should slide out the same. There we go. Pull this up. Yeah, look at that. Perfectly clean, dry. Seals are okay, so we're not going to bother to replace the fork seals at the moment. Just a thing for you to remember, if your bike ever needs a fork seals replacing, most bikes I've ever bought fork seals, when you buy them, they come in a pair. I got a set for this just in case, because as I live in Bulgaria, it's not so simple for me to get everything all the time, so I keep certain things in stock. When I ordered the fork seals, you get one in a packet. You know, whoever wants to send you one fork seal. I've got that one, and the price, I thought it was expensive when I was buying a pair. I can't remember how much it was now, but it was astronomical price. And I actually got some from India. It says genuine Royal Enfield on the packet, but it's 2 seals and 2 dust seals for the tops of the forks, which fits in above the actual oil seal. And from India, all that kit was less than buying one fork seal from the main dealer. So, big saving. I think if you're running an Enfield, I get most of my stuff now from India. Order yourself a set of fork seals. You know, it's not if they ever need them, it's when. All bike fork seals need replacing in the end. All right, let's crack on again. Right, you might see from there, I think. We've took the nut off here. The forks are out now. This, yeah, if you look, is attached to nothing. Just move that mud guard out there. Right, I've got a bungee cord. Now my idea is I'm going to lift this up. Is there enough to... Yes, just. Right. I can't fasten it back much. Let's have a look what we can do. Put the bungee cord through here. Through here. Around the screen. Just took it on there. It's not a huge amount of pressure on anything. Yeah. But it just gives us the clearance. That's just give me the clearance, look, to work on this piece. Plus then I've not had to do any cables, move the switches or take the bars, the risers off. So it is, you can just about do it, because you do need good clearance around this. Because once we take this off, that there and the bottom yoke will drop out the bottom with the bearing still attached. Take the dust seal off, and then we'll have to... Right, the C-spanner fits in there like that, look. Now, I've just cracked this off because it isn't very tight. I moved it to undo it. Put your hand under the bottom yoke down here. Then screw that off. Quite a lot of thread on it. Right, I'll move the camera so you can see it coming out the bottom. Yeah, I think you can... Yeah, you can just about see it. I'll push that back up. There. Right, hold your hand underneath the bottom yoke. The nut's off. the dust seal, that's off. This will slide right out the bottom. There we go. That's your bottom yoke, the stem. That's the bearings. As you can see, they're well greased, look. Now, let's get a bit of rag. I wonder if you can see where it's worn inside. As you can see, there's plenty of grease in there. Right, let's have a look. Yeah. Now, I hope the camera is going to pick this up. I don't. I'll get a screwdriver. Uh-huh. Turn that off a minute. Right, I've got to get the camera just in the right light. A bit difficult for you to see, but where this is here, there's a line there, line there, line there. It don't feel bad, but I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. Might do. See what it's like when it's on. Oh yeah, you can just see black lines, look. There's one there, look. End of my screwdrivers. They're evenly spaced around here, all the way around here. That's actually where the bearing's been sitting. And that's the part, the bearings sitting in that. So these wasn't completely gone, but I could feel it. When the weight's on it, it was just getting notchy. A lot of people leave it till it's really notchy. And they can actually, I bought a BMW F650 GS a couple of years ago, and I picked it up off the owner, and there's a guy at a garage. It was his first bike, and he was covered in, he'd been off, you could see he'd been off it, and he's in a bit of a mess, his arms and whatnot. I was riding with a t-shirt on, and he says, oh, you know, his mates have got bikes, I bought this bike. He says, that's it, me done, finished bikes. I says, okay, and I bought it off him. When I went to ride it home, I could hardly ride it. It was horrendous. It was dangerous to ride. And what it was, the headstock bearings was that bad on it. He couldn't steer the bike, he couldn't lean it properly. And that's what fetched him off. No, he never had a bike before, so he got no idea what was wrong with it. Yeah, well, there you go. Right, let's have a look at the top now. That's what we're looking at on the top. Pull that out. That's your bearing. As you can see, everything's properly greased. It's not long since I did it. It's just the quality of the bearings. I dare say when I usually find on this Indian stuff, it's either got a brand on that you think should be a good brand, but it's got then made in India on it. Or no numbers at all, which is another thing. I'll just give this a clean off. Let's have a look. I ain't trouble doing this job. Your camera gets plastered. Ah, well. Yeah, this is a typical bearing. Right, this is something you have to be aware of when you buy something. Only buy your bearings from a reputable bearing place, because these bearings, I don't know whether it's going to show it on there. Let's have a look. SKF, which is a top branded bearing. I'm putting SKF bearings back in this. The only difference is, if you look on there, does that show it? India. These are made in India. You do not want bearings that's made in India. You think the whole bearings throughout wherever are the same brand. It's a bit like Bosch tools, Germany, electric tools. You know, I've always bought Bosch because Bosch is a quality tool. When I moved here, I bought some Bosch tools. I thought, God, these are reasonable prices. Drills and stuff. And I had loads of problems with things. They didn't seem to last very long. It was only when I looked in the labelling of it, it was made in Romania. Bosch in Romania. That's not German, is it? It obviously wasn't the same quality. And then I put things on forums, and it turns out Bosch is the same as everybody else. They've got factories all over, wherever there's cheap labour, cheap parts. Well, that's how you go in it. But these say SKF, and it's got India on it. This is why they're not lasted very long. Right, let's put that down here. Oh. What I've got to do now, I don't know if the camera's going to show this. This piece here, that I've got to knock that out, and there's one at the bottom. That's the seat for the old bearing as well, down there. Get a long punch and a hammer and tap it. I'll try and show you, but it's not be easy to show you on the camera. Got to knock that one out, knock this one out, and then we'll put the new ones in. Right, I'm going to knock that out. I just don't want to get my camera too near to it. I don't want to hit my camera. Long punch down there. There we go. That's it. That's out. Let me see if I still don't know whether you're going to see it. It's quite bad actually. You might be able to see it. Yeah, you should see the marks in there. Okay. Right, I'm going to knock the top one out. Then I'm going to knock the bottom bearing in. I'll show you me trying to do that. What I've also got to do, I've got to get this off here, which isn't quite so easy, but we'll see how we get on with it. Actual fact, I think I'll try this first. Right, I've got the bearing off the old one. As you can see, it didn't come off without a fight, but it's off. New bearing. Slide it on, dust seals on. Now, when you take the old bearing off, as you can see this, do wear safety glasses because the bearing can shatter. I've just been looking. What I could do with is a piece of metal pipe, 10, 20, 25 mil inside diameter, maybe 25, 26, 27, 28 mil outside diameter to slide over here so I can knock this bearing on so I'm not actually hammering the bearing. But what I'm going to use is the old bearing that come off. Turn it upside down. That's it. That will sit on the inner race without touching the outer one, look. Then I can gently tap. Right, that's tapped down, fully home. That spins, look, so we'll not touch the outer cage or the bearing surfaces. That's without damaging the bearing whatsoever. I'm not saying hitting that bearing, this old bearing, using it as for hammering, because this is still a bearing, it can shatter. I advise you to try and find a piece of metal pipe, it's just the perfect fit. So I'm not condoning what I've just done, really, but it's I haven't got a piece of pipe here, and I don't know where you're going to get a piece from. But it's better to do this than it is to try and, let me just get a punch. It's better to use this than it is to try and put a punch through here and tap it with a punch, because you're going to damage. You can break the lip off the bearing. Secondly, you can crush the cage. So, safe way of getting it on. This is the bearing the other way up. That slides down, that touches the inner part of the bearing, and as you can see, not touching the cage, and when you hit it, it's getting equal force all the way around. Right, so that's my seal on. This is my bottom bearing on. This is the other part of the bearing. I'm going to tap that back inside there. I've already knocked the top one out and sat the bearing in the top. So I'll grease this up, grease the top one up, and then we'll slide this back in, and I'll show you how we tighten it up. Right, that's the old bearings that was in it. That was the top bearing, that obviously was the bottom bearing. That's the two cones. As you saw, we have, turn this down a bit. That's our new bearing on. It's down flush, the seal's tight. I'm going to pack it with grease now. The grease I use is high melting point lithium base grease. Obviously it's very close to the engine, very close, the bottom yoke's very close to the exhaust system, so if you use a high melting point, it's not going to heat up, and over time the grease run out of the bearing and end up with a dry bearing, which won't last long. I did put some grease in the bearing. Well, look at the old one. I packed it in here before I put the bearing on. So I know it's already got plenty in it, but we'll keep just keep turning it. That way it gets the grease inside it. Yeah, I can see it squatching out a bit now, so that's done. I've already done the top bearing. It's packed with grease and ready to go back on. Okay, put that in there. Drop the top bearing in. Push it down my fingers. Seal. And thread this back on. Right, now this nut here, it's not very clear in the Himalayan Workshop manual. There is a special socket you can get that's got prongs on. You tighten this up and it says 50 Newton meters, which is, that's mega tight. But what that's supposed to be doing is pulling making sure the bearing cones are seated into the headstock. Because once you've got it tight, you've got to back it off till it's slack then. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tighten this up with my C-spanner until it's tight. Then when it's tight, you'll find that it's actually quite stiff. Then I'm going to back it off until I think it feels there's no play in it and it's nice and free. Then when I think it's a bit of experience for me really, when I think I've got it set right, so it's going to go this I'm going to do tight, so it's tight, I'll only do it now. I'll do it now, I'll show you. It's easier to show you than talking. Put it on lock. And just keep winding this in. This will make sure you've got the cones you knocked in pulled down tight into the tube. Right, that's tight. And that is mega stiff. So turn it in the opposite lock. So I'm here. Back it off one of the castles. No, I would say that's still a little bit tight. So maybe just about half. Let's try it again. Just a bit more. Oh, that's better, look. Right. Now, when I've got it like that, for me, that's good enough to assemble it now. Put the top yoke back on and my nut on. What I'll do then is I'll build all the forks up, put them back in the bike. I'll show you. That's the best way. Yeah. Right. My next job, I'm going to put this back on here. There we go. Move that out of the way. Just make sure you've not got no wiring trapped anywhere. Alright, next your nut. Now it's got a shoulder in it there, which will take that gap up. So we're going to screw that back in here. Like so. That's finger tight. That's all you want to do. Yeah, leave it finger tight so it slop about, because what you've got to do now is get your fork legs in. Right, I'm going to slide the fork leg in. You'll see why we left the top yoke loose in a minute. I think that was that way. Yeah, it was. Like so. Unless you've got bent fork legs, this should line your forks up. That's it. Just nip them up to grip them. Not tight. Don't worry about it, like you got this facing this way, these will turn anyway. Just line those up when you got them in. There we go. What I do now, I put the spindle in. Put it in. Into the fork. like so. That just trues your fork legs up. Right, when I've got this in and I've got the forks in, just nip them up a bit at the top. There you go. This is how you're going to check. That's nice and free. It should, without no effort, spin lock to lock, like that does. What you don't want is if you grab hold of the bottom, pull them backwards and forwards. That's it. All the play's gone out of it now, so I can tighten the silver nut on the top, tighten the bolts in the yokes, then we can put the wheel and everything back in. So we'll go a bit further with it. I'm going to put this eye mud guard back in. I've greased the bolts with copper grease, that's what I use. This isn't too bad a job to do really. It's very long-winded when you're filming it. Your biggest job is getting that bottom bearing off the shaft. It's not too difficult really. What I'm going to do when I've got these bolts wound in, got my torque wrench, I'm setting these at 10 Newton meters. Usually I do 6mm bolts at 12, but seeing these are quite long and screwing into an alley yoke, and to be honest, the quality of the parts Royal Enfield use, I sooner go a little bit less. Don't want to strip the threads or snap the bolt. Shouldn't do, but like I say. Right, I'll get these tightened up, torqued up, then the next job we'll put the mud guard in. Right, about ready. Put the wheel back in now. We've got the bottom mud guard on, 10 Newton meters, the top mud guard on, the bolts 10 Newton meters. Only plastics holding on, so that's good. Got the forks in. We haven't torqued these up yet. I will do that obviously later. One of the things, if you remember, we did was I put the spindle in the wheel. Now's a good time. Now I've got these nipped up and everything, the mud guards are on. This is a perfect fit. See how it's nice and loose? It's a good way of, tells you that when you've got your forks in, that everything's true, because that lines up beautiful and it's not tight, there's no bashing it in or anything. So right, let's put the wheel in. Roll it into place. Let's get this in. Washer, nut, just twist it up lightly. Good time to check your brake pads. I've already put copper grease on the bolts. Okay, got the caliper bolts in. I'm going to torque them up 25 Newton meters. Caliper on. Now remember, I put mine around the back, the ABS sensor. Just drop it in the hole. ABS sensor, it's only plastic, only wants to be snug, that's it, don't go shearing it off. I shall fasten this with a cable tie to just here, so it just keeps it nice and tight. You can see that. Now at this stage the caliper's on, but I haven't pumped it up. That's it. Wheels nice and free. Now this nut wants to be 7. Use a torque wrench on your wheel here, saves you crushing the spacer inside here, and it crushes the bearings up. Plus, also if you're not careful, it'll try to pull the forks in. Let's check it again. There we go. The Allen key this side, if you remember, on the pinch bolt. I only do it up snug. There we go, that's all it needs, because if you, this pinch bolt, if you used to over tighten this, you can snap this straight across here, and then I'm afraid it's a new bottom fork leg, so only snug. Check everything's where it should be. Wheels spinning nice and free. Pump the brake out. There we go. Yeah. Now, last check. So, move it back. The last check to do, hands on the bottom of this, here, this piece. Can you feel any movement in the bearings? You shouldn't do. And there isn't, there's nothing at all. Does it turn freely? Lovely. Now, I suggest take it out for a good run. Yeah, maybe put 50 kilometres on it or something. Bring it back, jack it up. Just check this. If it's settled, the bearings are settled in. If you didn't get the cones tight in the headstock. But you should have done anyway. Shouldn't be any movement, and there isn't on this. That's lovely and free, greased up, decent quality bearings. Can't say it lasts a lifetime, but it lasts a lot longer than what the stock was. You know, just check them once a year. In the winter, under the nut, drop it down, just re-grease them. Right, let's go back to the top. Oh. Now we know we've got this set, the castle nut on there set, because that's how our bearings are set with. This here, all this is doing is pulling this down tight, so there would be a torque setting for that, but you're going to take the bars off, so just do it tight. It's more than hand tight, but that's it. Just use your common sense. When you get the bike on the floor, if you stand on the footrests, stand up, looking at the front wheel, being straight, just check your bars are straight. If they're out of alignment, they shouldn't be, because the spindle went in the bottom fork straight. You just slack these off, not much, only a bit. Put the wheel between your legs like that, then give it a pull, on which it's not accident damaged or anything. It should all drop in straight, but you can tweak them a bit. They are known, these. I've read, I think when they made the yokes, they're not 110% bored straight. It could be out slightly. It makes it look like your bars are bent, but they're not. So I'm going to tighten these up. Now there is a torque setting for them, but I don't use a torque setting. I do it but what I feel is right, because when you're tightening this, if you look at the gap, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, I've just done that by hand, I've not tightened these yet. The gap's bigger at the bottom than there is at the top. It wants to be a parallel gap and just twitched up, that's all. Don't go over tightening these. Same on the top, you could have a mishap and it cracks it down here. So just twitch these up, which I'll do now. We'll drop it off on the floor and we should all be good. Whichever way the bars are gone, but it shouldn't need doing if everything's right. Right, this nut, as you can see before I tightened it, they should just easily go side to side. We've got no free play in it. That doesn't feel very, no, it falls on its own. This, that's it. Only, it's tight, but not dogging the hell out of it, because actual fact, if you keep over tightening that, you will tighten on the bearings. It'll drag, give you false reading. That's plenty. That's lovely. I'm happy with that.